Hello everybody and welcome back to my series where I cover every Disney animated cartoon from every year. This year is 1927, a big year in Disney animation when Oswald the Lucky Rabbit was first introduced. However, we still got Alice Comedies to go over. One thing about this year that's unique is the fact that, well, there's not a lot to see, because most of the cartoons that were released during this era are unfortunately lost, especially Walt Disney's original series, the Alice Comedies, which will end in this year, but most of them are unfortunately lost cartoons. So let's go over the couple that we still have, give information on the ones that are lost. The first cartoon released this year, Alice the Golf Bug, is our first of many lost cartoons. This cartoon would have featured, well, Alice, Julius, and Pete compete in a manic, whatever the hell, I can't speak, golf tournament. And then there's like proto Mickey Mouse there in the cover. Does he have a poster? That's nice. The next cartoon is also lost, known as Alice Foils the Pirates. This one would have showcased pirates kidnapping Alice, Julius having to stop the pirates, and one of the main pirates would have been played by Pete. Our next lost cartoon, Alice at the Carnival, has, well, apparently Alice and Julius go to a carnival and they see rides. That's the only description we have of this cartoon. We probably weren't missing much of this one. But don't you worry, because there is cartoons that can still exist, like Alice at the Rodeo. There isn't really much to say about this. There's a rodeo, there's horses, and yeah. One of the cat characters tries to get on the horse, the female one, that might have been Julius's girlfriend, maybe, I don't really know. And randomly, I guess Pete here decides he's going to rob money because this is a Western outlaw story now. And they have a long, fight scene that's not bad, but there's one joke I like quite a bit. They do a typical thing where they're over a cliff and they don't realize at the time, so they had to oh my god, we're falling. Which is, it's a classic cartoon trope. But the funny part is, he's like, yeah, he's gone, but he's like, uh-oh, I forgot the money bag. He goes back down. I don't know why this cracks me up. He's like, and he just swims back up in the air. Maybe this whole cartoon is worth it just for that joke, but other than that, it's not that entertaining. Unfortunately, the next cartoon is lost. Alice the Collegiate? I don't even know that word. Apparently something to do with college, but I never heard that word before, unless its pronunciation is a lot different than I think it is. Apparently Alice gets a teaching job, but she's probably barely in it, and Julius teaches football, or he's a football star. I don't know, that's it. The next cartoon is also lost. Alice in the Alps. They go to the Alps and ice skate, apparently. That's it. The next cartoon is also partially lost. We do have a 30-second long footage of Julius the cat driving a live car. The car is alive, but then it's in the air. It looks like it's two different cartoons we've seen, but it's a shame that it's lost entirely, pretty much. This is all there exists, I'm not even joking, just this clip. At least you can see this next cartoon, Alice's Circus Days, which doesn't have the best preservation, but it's still, we can still see it, which is nice. I mean, who could forget the amazing Rubber Man, who may or may not be a racist stereotype, but I can't tell how bad the film quality is. There is this one scene that's really weird where this dog clown's right up in your face, and it's kind of strange because they don't usually do stuff like that. It's just kind of bizarre. Look at that. I mean, I'm kind of freaked out right now. And the rest is, well, not really that noteworthy. There's a guy messing with some big cats, some, I guess, leopards or cheetahs, and then lions and stuff like that, but it's not really that entertaining. It's alright, it's fine. Like most of these Alice comedy short cartoons, the character of Alice rarely appears, and just in this one, it's on bouncing on chairs, but just an animated drawing. They really did not want to do any of those live action stuff anymore, which is why this series ended by the end, because even the producers didn't want to do this live action hybrid. They didn't want Felix the Cat rip off their main character. And that is the end of this cartoon, pretty much. We only got 2 actual Alice cartoons left. The rest of these are all not public domain, lost cartoons, so let's go over them real quickly. Alice's Naughty Night is just a cartoon where Julius fights a pea as a knight. Alice's 3 Bad Eggs would have probably would have been a very dated cartoon based on the description of them fighting against Native Americans. Yeah, oh my god, this one doesn't exist. Alice's Picnic was just literally them having a picnic and then fighting off ants. Alice's Channel Swim would have been a race between Julius and Pete, who could swim over the English Channel the fastest, which I think was based off a real life event at the time where someone actually did that, but I could be mistaken. Alice in the Klondike, which is showcased them prospecting in the Klondike for gold. Alice's Medicine Show would have showed Julius and Alice being snakes, oil salesmen, quite literally, selling medicine out of a cart, but it probably would have been a failure, because we know how shitty those characters are. In the last lost Alice comedy cartoon is Alice the Beach Nut. They go to the beach, and that's it. Alice the Whaler is one of the more interesting Alice Comedy cartoons. One, it's one of the only ones that exist in 1927, but also it's very similar to a 1928 famous cartoon that you might have heard about. This cartoon doesn't feature Alice or Julius any main star at all. Julius barely appears, and Alice barely appears, which is be expected, but one character that does appear is this random mouse wearing pants who is cutting up potatoes on a boat. That sounds familiar. Or have I seen that before, I wonder? This short does feature some pretty cool animation techniques, like the fact in order to showcase the bow actually swaying, it actually does tilt back and forth, which is a pretty cool effect, I won't lie, though it does make me feel a little sick. Also, in our Steamboat Willie reference, there's the Pete character who is like basically ordering around this little mouse guy around. So, you know, very similar, like extremely similar. Even this joke here is literally in Steamboat Willie. It seems obvious that there's so much connections between that cartoon, just as little shorts and gags there, but I literally can't find anyone else other than me to find this out, so maybe I'm the first one. I'm special! Not really. It is really shocking how much this mouse guy is featured and how similar he is to Mickey, that it's kind of crazy. Also, here's the only appearance of Julius here. Yeah, he's just standing on top of this boat there. He sees a whale who has giant lips for some reason. They decide to attack the whale because I guess they didn't read Moby Dick, and yeah, that's it. I'm guessing this cartoon's partially lost based on its short runtime, but still, the whaling part's only at the very end. It's very bizarre. Oh well. And here it is, the last Alice Comedy cartoon, Alice in the Big League. This one features two Mickey Mouses, I don't know, looking for a peephole to try to see a baseball game. This is not the best baseball cartoon from the golden age of animation, let's tell you that. Also, I'm very confused by this soapbox. Like, is he standing inside the soapbox? Is he standing on top of it? Or, I don't know what's going on there. I don't like the way that's illustrated. It's very confusing. And yeah, this one is not very good. There is okay jokes, but then there's this dumb umpire character who's played by Alice, and I always hate the fact when they start, okay, here's the random girl there, just does something that it just... This is one of the ways things I won't miss about this, is that they don't mix very well. Like, I don't get it. And I guess it's a fitting end because no one else in the crowd seems to like her either, and that's literally the end of the Alice Comedy cartoons. Her getting beat up. Lovely. Though very fittingly, at the very end, she turns into an animated character, showcasing that they're moving away from hybrid animation, but away into just straight-up animation. Bye-bye, see you later. Disney cartoons are now under distribution by Universal, and they wanted something new. They didn't like the idea of this character who was hybrid animation stuff. It was taking away from actual animated characters. Plus, the main character they kept using, Julius the Cat, was too similar to Felix the Cat. They needed something new. So Disney and this top animator at Bioworks came up with a character called Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, and they debuted his character in a cartoon short known as Poor Papa, which they hated it. They almost fired them over it. After apologizing for it, they released the actual first Oswald cartoon, Trolley Troubles, which is what we're going to talk about now. Now, Poor Papa was actually eventually released the next year, but we're not going to talk about that until we get to next year. But yeah, it is a kind of a strange cartoon debut for Oswald in a way, because he's like an old guy with a bunch of kids, which is technically canon to the character. Anyway, here's the first Oswald the Lucky Rabbit cartoon, Trolley Troubles. You'll notice a significant increase in quality because they have gotten a bigger budget as well as more animators, though Bioworks is still the main guy here, and he's definitely improved his craft. Not having to worry about hybrid animation in any of the cartoons has definitely helped them out a lot, because these cartoons are going to flow better, and the characters are going to be more expressive. In fact, Oswald's character was specifically designed to be kind of an oddball, rebel type of character, which we'll also see in Mickey Mouse, but he is an extreme example of that. In the cartoon, Oswald works on a trolley train where he helps out little guests there, here and there, on a really crazy train ride where the road keeps changing. A lot of cool animation stuff by Iworks there, who does a lot of cool perspective stuff. One thing you'll notice about this compared to the Alice Comedy ones is that not only is there better flow, there's better gags, it has better pacing, it's more fast, and there's more character. You can see Oswald's kind of a trickster character. He messes with goats in order to get his trolley to go up. He's mischievous a little bit, but he's a very fun character to watch. I like him quite a bit. Though as a character, he gets in a lot of trouble. Like, there's a very impressive shot where the train goes down crazy hills where there's tons of perspective changes that Bioworks is just very good at doing. This cartoon is very fun to watch. I like this one quite a bit. I mean, look at this animation from the time. This was insanely impressive. It still is to this day, actually. It's not hard. It's pretty hard to do this in 2D. And this pretty much was done entirely by one guy. It's very hard to believe. One of the trademarks of Oswald's character compared to someone like Mickey is the fact he's lucky. Well, I guess not really. He can rub his rabbit foot on his head, which is kind of funny, because the rabbit foot apparently is supposed to make you lucky, but whatever. His own foot he rubs on his head. That's pretty fun. But his train is saved by being in the river, and he swims away. And that's the end. Kind of a strange end, but whatever. Even stranger is the fact that his ass is how it ends. For some reason, every ending showcases Oswald's ass. Don't ask me why. Universal and Charles Mintz, who was distributing these cartoons, was a lot more impressed with the Oswald character than they were with the Alice Comedies. They did a lot better, too. These cartoons, like I said, were really well done and really fun, and would lead to the Mickey Mouse cartoons that we see later on. Our next Oswald cartoon is Oh Teacher. Now, based on the title, you would think this would be about school, but it really isn't. It's about Oswald trying to get a girlfriend. Well, trying to get a girl. And he does. This is Fanny Cottontail. That's her name. And she is Oswald's first girlfriend. Yes, unlike Mickey, Oswald gets ass, and he has 2 girlfriends. Her design's also pretty inconsistent. In her first appearance here, she looks pretty much just like Oswald, but wearing a dress. Later appearances, she gets more feminine features, like actual curves, and different eye type, and all the other stuff, and lipstick. Which is a very interesting design choice, because a lot of the other female versions of the Disney characters don't usually have, well, stuff like that. The cartoon where this version appears, we're going to see soon. It's very interesting, to say the least. And very strangely enough, though this is not considered Disney canon because it wasn't done by Disney, but when the character still existed after Disney left this doing the character was made Oswald's sister and looked very different, which is very odd. But the Walter Lantz Oswald stuff is not considered a part of the main Disney stuff, even though they technically own it. So she's not his sister, technically speaking. He's just his first girlfriend. So unfortunately for Fanny, she's been pushed to the wayside. She was even going to be Oswald's main love interest in Epic Mickey, but they went with Hortensia instead. I don't know why. Usually the Disney characters are usually dating their own species, but I guess Oswald doesn't like to play that way. Oh well. Oddly enough, we do see a familiar character. This one bully cat is pretty much just Julius the cat. He's an asshole. He's mad that his cartoon got cancelled, I guess. So this guy isn't officially Julius, but he does have the question mark thing that I feel the cat does, so I guess I'm going to say he is Julius the cat. Anyway, either way, he's just an antagonistic Felix the cat that tries to steal Oswald's girlfriend like an asshole. Here's a fun gag. This help comes to life and kicks Oswald in the ass to help out. He's like, oh crap, can you help me out? Help the word help? He sure can. He can ride the word help. One of the strange things about this cartoon is that the character, I'm just calling Julius, starts to morph more into Pete. He gets fatter as the cartoon goes on. Earlier on we saw he looked more like his older self. It's kind of strange, but whatever. Canonically, Julius the cat becomes Pete. How about that? That's our new canon now. It makes sense. The cartoon ends weird. They go to school finally, and Oswald's like, I have a brick that was going to hit you in the head, but I'm not going to. I don't know what he's even doing there, but then he just gets hit in the head with a brick anyway because it slides down the gutter. Next up is the Mechanical Cow. Moo. So this cartoon is weird because Oswald's kind of barn. He has a friend that's a cow, a robot cow, or a mechanical cow, if you will. Why is it mechanical? I don't know. It just is. And it's also lazy. He doesn't want to get up. He goes around on his mechanical cow giving out milk to random baby hippos because that's just what he does, apparently. He's a milkman with a mechanical cow that produces milk somehow. I don't know how that works, but it just does. Well, here's the machine working in action, in case you're wondering. This is just how it works, apparently. Yeah, I'm not gonna say anything about that. He tries to get milk for Fanny, but unfortunately, he wasted it all on that one little kid. But that's okay, because they're hanging out, like, wow. And then all of a sudden, a random taxi appears with an invisible man who's... Well, I don't even know what the hell just happened here. What the hell's going on? Now all of a sudden he's chasing a random group of criminals that used to be a taxi. They're all black, but black monsters, not like the way you think. On his mechanical cow thing. And what the hell's this cartoon? This is definitely one of the most bizarre cartoons I've ever seen. And I've seen Porky in Wacky Land. That's a wacky cartoon. But don't worry, he saves the girl in the end, and he even has a seat in his mechanical cow for her. Why is it mechanical? We still don't understand that. Here's Oswald's ass. Anyway, next up is Great Guns. There's a war going on in Cartoonville, or wherever Oswald lives. I don't know, they never really tell us where he lives. Disney's imagination, how about that? So apparently everyone's excited to go to war, because as we all know, everyone loves going to war. People are driving into war, the recruiting office, that's how much they love it. And of course, Oswald is going to join the fight with his bayonet. I guess he forgot which war it is. He tells his girlfriend slash sister, Fanny, I still don't know, he's going to war. He's going to stab and kill people, which apparently excites her. Which is really beat. But they're sad and they have to kiss each other. And the lips are stuck together. This makes him sad and not want to fight anymore. He just kisses her picture endlessly during a trench warfare. And also, Mickey Mouse is also shooting a machine gun in a nest. Don't ask. But then Oswald's like, oh shit, I gotta fight. The whole time he had a biplane. Like, what was he doing just hanging on the trench when he had a biplane? So yeah, they go a little plane crazy. Haha, bad pun, I know. And here they are, Oswald and Mickey, brothers fighting each other. They are canonically brothers, look it up. It's on the Disney Wiki, I'm not lying about that. The cartoon swaps over from Oswald fighting Mickey to Oswald fighting Pete here, which I can tell is Pete because he looks like a bear kind of character. He's a bear cat. I don't even know what Pete is. He says cat, bear, I don't know. He's a random guy. But Oswald, he doesn't last very long in the war because he gets blown to smithereens here. Quite literally. He dies. But don't worry, his girlfriend, who's now a nurse in the war, actually saves his life, even though he's already dead. But don't worry, making a cocktail out of him will save him. This works, by the way, in case you're wondering. And that's it. They make out and make love, not war. And it ends. There's his ass again. Now that you're wondering, what happened to the guy who was fighting Pete? Well, fuck it. Who cares? Next up is All Well, which may be my favorite Oswald cartoon that I've seen so far. Of this year, at least. Anyway, Oswald is selling hot dogs, which, I wonder what other Disney characters sold hot dogs before. I wonder. One thing you'll notice that Oswald does is that he'll take off his ears and use them to beat people up, which is pretty funny. He does that multiple times in these cartoons, but it's a pretty good gag, I won't lie. This one dog wants to eat a hot dog, pressing that 3 times fast, but the hot dog is actually alive and he feels bad about trying to eat it. Which is a pretty beat gag, but it's pretty funny anyway. One of the hot dogs was bad, so Oswald has to spank it, which is a gag I've also seen in Mickey Mouse cartoon. So yeah, Mickey ripped off his brother Oswald, confirmed. Then we see Fanny, who looks a lot different. She's got a lot more curves now, and Oswald seems to notice too. This is also for Fanny's last official cartoon appearance, not counting Poor Papa, which is technically her first appearance, but you know, it came out later. So yeah, she got replaced by Hortensia. Sorry, Fanny, but I guess Oswald just decided not to go with you, even though you got more curves. I don't get it. But he closes the stand for the day because he got horny. In order to press her more, he decides to become a lifeguard. He even transfers his fat into his chest to look like he's buff. Becoming a lifeguard actually works because Fanny decides that she's going to fake drowning so that Oswald can save her because she's turned on. But she doesn't want us to see her changing. Alright, there's some modesty here. And she calls out for help even though she's obviously not in danger and she also has a life tube. But Oswald gets hit by help again and decides he's got to run for it. He's like, oh my god, someone help. I was like, oh crap, I'm the lifeguard, I'm an idiot. So he goes in the boat immediately breaks in half as he just starts to paddle over. And he just goes over every wave in the midair, right through one of the waves. I don't know why that cracks me up. And also there's a fish that now wants to attack Fanny here. I keep wanting to say Franny, but her name is Fanny. So, you know, whatever. Anyway, Oswald eventually saves her, or more like the ocean saves them, because they shoots them way out off course and offshore. We've seen this gag before, where like someone's almost dead, and she has to do a way to help them out. But here, just the rolling up is just hilarious. He just rolls her up in order to shoot out the water. It's such a great gag. And Oswald gets the girl in the end. Well, he would. They broke up, I guess, because the next time we won't see her dating Oswald. Or, unless we count Poor Papa. But you know that cartoon technically came out before this, not before, but made before. And there's his ass again. Anyway, the next cartoon is The Ocean Hop. During this time in history, Charles Lindbergh was one of the first guys to travel across the Atlantic Ocean into Europe from America, so of course this cartoon is based heavily on that, and of course for the first Mickey Mouse cartoon, Plane Crazy was also based off that. And Oswald and a bunch of other characters are also going to see who can fly the first over the ocean because they want to copy him. Here you see another version of Pete who laughs at Oswald's little plane, who also is alive like Oswald because he's a cartoon world, of course it's going to be alive. Pete decides to be a giant dick and chew gum and stick it to his plane so it can't take off. What an ass. So unfortunately for Oswald, his plane is stuck at the starting line and the propeller and wings go off without him. But don't worry, he finds an alternative to the plane. He sees a random dog that's carrying 3 mice for some reason. And Mickey and his friends decide they're going to help Oswald out by becoming a balloon. I wonder if Shrek stole that joke. Or maybe not. What the hell's going on? Inflation? One of the ways the Mickeys blow up the balloon is by jumping on one of their chests in order to blow up the balloon. I love some of these gags. The Oswald cartoons have a lot of great gags. They're great. And now Oswald's got his plane, a random dog with 2 balloons and a fan in the back, with a 1 piece of wood as the propeller. Which is not even the propeller, because the dog's ears make him fly. You know what, I'm not even going to question it. Though my funnier joke is the fact that there's this giant like sign up in the middle, probably the middle of the ocean, just pointing to North Pole and Paris, the only two destinations. All the other planes have failed other than Oswald and Pete, but Oswald's plane's about to fail, so he has to actually row his plane with his ears. I don't even know what the hell's going on. Unfortunately, Oswald gets shot out of the air, but he has a parachute, which is good for him. And his dog, I guess, dies, I guess? I don't know. Yeah, you never see him again. But he lands in Paris, and that's all that matters. He wins the course, and he gets some baguettes, I guess. I want a baguette right now. That sounds pretty good right now. Unfortunately, not every Oswald cartoon has been saved, one of them being The Banker's Daughter, which is the first ever appearance of his official girlfriend, Hortensia the cat, which I feel like we've seen technically in the Julius cartoons with the Alice Comedies, because it's a very similar design. This cartoon would have showcased Oswald going to some banker, falling in love with his daughter, and all sorts of shenanigans with money and stuff like that. There is some sketchy things of this cartoon, including this poster, but other than that, there's not much known about it. It's one of the more famous lost Disney cartoons. There is another lost cartoon known as Rickety Gin. This cartoon would be the last Oswald cartoon released this year, but I'm going to cover the second to last one because we actually have that one on tape. It would showcase Oswald and his horse buddy, which he has, as well as Hortensia and a kid, and Oswald, of course, gets turned on, like he always does. He seems to be pretty horny, but he's a rabbit, so I guess that makes sense. Here's some of the official sketches for this cartoon. I'm not sure who did it. I'm going to guess it's Ub Iwerks, based on the fact he did most of these cartoon stuff, related things at this time. And it would showcase the horse thing to a baby with a weird broomstick butt, like it always does. Oswald going for a date and all this other stuff. These are the official sketches, at least we know. And there's a random, the horse holds a mallet against the baby for some reason. And there's a random pig barrel guy. I don't know what the hell's going on in this cartoon. These are just sketches. We don't know exactly what's happening here. And it's just bizarre. Empty Socks is the last cartoon we're covering, and a recently found film. It's partially lost, some of the footage is not there, but it's mostly intact, which is pretty good. This is the first ever Christmas Disney short, and it is bizarre. Well, it starts off pretty normal. Oswald has his horse buddy here, which he just kind of has a horse buddy. He sees that Hortensia, his girlfriend, is reading The Night Before Christmas to a bunch of little cat kids. He's like, I'm gonna give them presents. I'm trying to be Santa Claus because I'm a nice guy. See, Oswald's a nice guy, you know? He may seem a little mischievous, but, you know, he does good. He dresses his horse up like a reindeer and decides to go down the chimney, but it's a little difficult because of how steep the roof is. And he realizes that the chimney is a little too small for him, but for the power of losing him tons of weight, he's able to go right down it. And he can grab a sack of toys. He comes downstairs, but they tell him to be quiet, which is kind of hard to really showcase because it's a Sonic cartoon. They do this kind of well by shaking the camera when this reindeer guy is way too loud, but you know, it would work better if it wasn't a Sonic cartoon. But they fail miserably as all the cat kids are up. But don't worry, Oswald's got the way to set the Christmas spirit. Look at that, he's got a ready-to-go tree. Unfortunately, the next part has been cut, but basically we would have saw like them play their initial toys and start a fire, but that fire we never see get started, and we just kind of see it randomly happening. So yeah, randomly there's a fire, and I guess the reason that it was set because these kids have a fire truck engine toy, and they're going to take out the fire. So yeah, this nice cartoon where Oswald pretends to be Santa to help out orphans suddenly turns into a fact the chair gets on fire and the whole orphanage burns down. Why is this in a Christmas cartoon with little kids? Why? And Oswald tries to help by taking out the fire, but for some reason the dumbass little cat kids who decide they want their orphanage to get burned down decide they're going to put the gasoline in the hose instead. Like, what the fuck? So yeah, the orphanage burns down, gets completely destroyed. Sorry for the epilepsy warning there, and yeah, it's gone. That's how this cartoon ends. What a bizarre ending for the first Christmas cartoon by Disney. It is really strange, but yeah, whatever. Anyway, that is it for all the Oswald cartoons. Next time, we'll be covering the Oswald cartoons in 1928, which will be the last time I'll be covering the 1920s in Disney, and actually I'll probably do a ranking of every cartoon I've seen from the 1920s from Disney. And maybe I'll do other series. I'm thinking about either Fleischer or Looney Tunes. So if you want to see that, let me know in the comment section down below. But until then, that is the end of this video. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for more stuff on my channel.